I never imagined that my grandfather, the quietest man in our family, the one who spent evenings in an old wooden rocking chair staring at nothing in particular, was hiding something so extraordinary that it would change our lives forever. Growing up, I always believed Grandpa was just simple, not simple-minded, just simple in routine. He woke up early, tended to the tiny vegetable garden behind his house, smoked his pipe on the porch, and told us kids random stories that we assumed he completely made up. Most of those stories were harmless tales about stray dogs he met during his travels, weird characters he encountered, and places he visited long before we were even born. But there was always something odd about the way he talked. Like he wanted to say more, but stopped himself. Like he was guarding a sentence that no one should ever hear. I only realized how true that was after he passed away. When Grandpa died, it hit the family with a strange combination of sadness and guilt. Sadness because, well, he was Grandpa. But guilt because we all felt like we never really took the time to understand him. He was always the quiet background character in the movie of our lives. The one we loved, but didn't fully know. After the funeral, we had to decide what to do with his house. It was an old structure, creaking floors, peeling paint, the smell of musty books, and a subtle hint of pipe smoke still lingering. My dad suggested we sell it, but something in me resisted. I asked for a week to clean and catalog what was inside before we made any decisions. Dad didn't mind. He knew I was closest to Grandpa. That's how I found the journal. It wasn't in a drawer, or a shelf, or even tucked away in some obvious place. It was hidden behind a loose wooden plank under Grandpa's bed. I only discovered it because I was sweeping and the edge of the plank lifted under the broom. Inside the compartment was a small leather-bound book tied with a faded red ribbon. Something about it felt ancient, not old in the typical sense, but old like it carried stories no one had ever heard. When I opened it, the first page had a date, 1954. But the first entry didn't start like a typical journal. It didn't say Dear Diary or talk about daily events. Instead, it said, if anyone is reading this, it means I'm gone. And if you are my blood, then what I'm about to reveal belongs to you. My heart raced. The next line, our family is richer than we ever knew. Not in money alone, but in something far more valuable. I remember sitting back on the floor, staring at those lines, wondering if Grandpa was losing his mind when he wrote this. But as I turned the pages, it became clear he wasn't delusional. He was documenting something real, something he spent his whole life protecting. The journal explained a family secret passed down from father to son for generations. According to Grandpa, our ancestors weren't just farmers or laborers. They were custodians of something precious, something hidden during a time of war and chaos. My great-great-grandfather, who lived in a remote village during colonial times, was entrusted with a treasure by a group of traveling traders who needed a safe place to store their wealth. They were fleeing conflict and promised to return for it. They never did. The journal described how the treasure became the family burden, because returning it to the rightful owners became impossible. Each generation vowed to protect it, hide it, and make sure it never fell into the wrong hands, especially after rumors spread that dangerous people were searching for it. But the most shocking part wasn't the story itself. It was what Grandpa wrote next. I am the last to protect it. I could not trust anyone in the family during my lifetime. But if you are the one reading this, then destiny chose you. My hand shook. Me? Why me? The journal continued, describing a map hidden inside the house. Not a real map, more like a set of clues disguised within objects Grandpa placed around his home over the years. The journal hinted at carvings, symbols, measurements, and patterns hidden in plain sight. At first, I thought it was some elaborate game Grandpa invented to entertain himself, but curiosity won. I followed the clues. The first clue was in the garden. The journal described a specific stone shaped like a teardrop buried near the old rose bush. I dug for almost 30 minutes before I found it. Underneath was a rusted metal box containing another slip of paper with coordinates written on it. The coordinates led me back inside the house to Grandpa's study room. There, a bookshelf with uneven compartments formed a strange pattern. When I arranged the books by their publication years, the spine spelled out a word: basement. The weird thing? Grandpa's house didn't have a basement, not that we knew of. But the journal said otherwise. I followed the next clue, which directed me to tap the floorboards under the study table. When I did, one of the planks sounded hollow. After removing it, I found a handle embedded into the ground. A trapdoor. I stood there for a full minute, speechless. How did Grandpa hide this from everyone? How did no one ever notice? When I pulled the handle, the door lifted with a loud creak, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The air smelled older than the house itself. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed down slowly. The basement wasn't big, but it was definitely ancient. Stone walls, dirt floor, and wooden beams supporting the ceiling. In the center of the room was a wooden chest covered in dust. My heart hammered in my chest. This was it. The journal had warned, "Open it only if you accept the responsibility." I wasn't sure what responsibility meant anymore. I just needed to know the truth. I unlatched the chest. Inside was not gold. Not coins, not gems. It was stacks of old photographs. Hundreds of them. Documents, letters, and sealed envelopes tied with threads. Some photos were in black and white, others sepia-toned. They showed people I didn't recognize, families, children, landscapes, and buildings. Some had dates written on the back. Others had notes in languages I couldn't identify. At first, I felt disappointed. Where was the fortune Grandpa mentioned? But as I looked closer, I realized what I'd found wasn't just historical, it was powerful. The documents detailed land ownership agreements, business contracts, and inheritance papers linked to regions that today are worth millions. It seemed the traders who hid their valuables with my ancestor also documented their properties, believing they'd return someday to reclaim them. Because they never did, the ownership rights, according to Grandpa's notes, had legally become collectible by the custodian family. Our family. Not only that one envelope contained authentication seals from colonial-era courts, proving those lands and properties existed and had rightful heirs. The fortune wasn't physical treasure. It was a massive collection of legal rights and claims that could make our family unimaginably wealthy today. I sat there stunned. For over a century, our family had unknowingly been the guardians of a hidden fortune documents more valuable than any gold. But then I found another journal entry near the end that chilled me. Others have searched for this. They believe the fortune still exists. If they discover you found it, they will come. My blood ran cold. Grandpa listed names people he believed were part of an underground circle still hunting for this lost wealth. He said they questioned him once, decades ago. He never told them anything, but he feared they never stopped searching. That night I didn't sleep. The next morning I contacted a lawyer who specialized in historical claims. He was shocked, not just by the documents, but by their condition, their authenticity, and the legal implications. He said it would take months of verification, but if everything checked out, the claims could be worth a fortune beyond anything I imagined. But he also warned me, you need to be careful who you tell. Not everyone will want you to succeed. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. A car kept parking near Grandpa's house, watching. Someone knocked on the door at 2 a.m. and ran away. I started receiving anonymous emails asking if I found anything unusual. It was clear, someone knew. I had to be strategic. I moved the documents to a secure vault, notified the authorities, and provided evidence of harassment. The lawyer took over all legal proceedings quietly. Months passed. Eventually, the government validated several of the land claims. Some properties had been absorbed into modern infrastructure, which meant compensation would be massive. Others were still intact and under state control, which meant ownership could transfer to us. The final estimated value? Enough to elevate our entire family's future college funds, homes, medical care, everything. But even with the wealth, I couldn't stop thinking about Grandpa. About how he lived so simply, even though he carried the weight of a fortune on his shoulders. He could have sold everything. He could have lived like a king. But he didn't. He believed the fortune wasn't meant for one person, but for the family, for the future. And somehow he chose me to uncover it. To this day, I still visit his house, the place where the secret lived. And sometimes when the wind creaks the old wooden floorboards, I almost hear his voice. Protect it. Use it wisely, and I intend to. Because Grandpa didn't just leave us wealth. He left us a legacy.